Welcome to the More Than Fitness podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another amazing Minisode on the More Than Fitness podcast. Today's Minisode is number 98. Yes, we're almost to 100. But today's Minisode is going to be 5 easy ways to eat more protein. Now, most of you all listening to this know that it's probably a good idea to consume more protein because it's good for your muscles, right? But I want to break it down a little bit more. I want to go over real quick just the benefits of protein for our sake, like why would we care, or why should we care? And then the safety, which is another common problem that people always worry about, and then how not all protein is created equally. And then after that, the 5 easy ways to consume more protein. So first off, the benefits. I'll rush through these, don't worry. The benefits are going to be hunger. It's going to be the main one. Of the 3 macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbs, protein is actually the most satiating. Most people, or a lot of people, think that it is fats, but it is actually protein. So whenever it comes to dieting, you want to make sure you manage your hunger well. So it's a good idea to consume quite a bit of protein with each meal. Next is going to be the obvious one for muscle building. Amino acids help build up that muscle. And so that's why it's a good idea to eat protein to do that. And lastly is going to be energy. So the preferred sources are going to be fats and carbohydrates, of course, but our bodies are super awesome and they can also use protein as energy when they need it. Next is going to be the safety, right? So a lot of people are worried, grandmothers, aunts, not just women, men, uncles, fathers, etc., are worried about little Johnny consuming too much protein and hurting his kidneys, right? But that is outdated science. There's actually some pretty quality research that has came out somewhat recently that said it is safe for individuals who don't have kidney disease or other conditions requiring protein restriction, and up to 2 grams per pound of body weight has been shown safe long-term via blood markers. So if you're 200 pounds, it is safe to consume 400 grams of protein per day. Now, just because it's safe doesn't mean you should do it. I definitely don't recommend 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. That is just ridiculous. For most people, I would say 0.8 grams per pound is going to be a much better and more practical solution for most people. So that's what I would try to work to. And if you want to maybe squeeze out a couple extra optimization points, then I would work up to maybe about 1 gram per pound. That's going to give you possibly a little bit more benefits. So it is safe. High protein amounts are safe. And then lastly, before we get into the 5 easy ways, not all protein is created equally, right? So this is especially important for, let's say, vegans and vegetarians. This is the reason why, well, not exactly the main reason, but for vegetarians and vegans, they want them, dietitians recommend them to get a spectrum of different protein sources so that they can get a complete amino acid profile. Well, one reason why meat products are so great for muscle building, and also milk products, specifically whey, milk, and casein products are so good for muscle building is because they have a high amount of leucine in them, L-leucine, which is an amino acid that is basically the trigger for muscle protein synthesis. And so to build muscle, it's a good idea to have a decent amount of leucine at each meal so it can trigger that muscle protein synthesis. And since these sources of whey, milk, casein, and then especially meats have a higher amount of leucine per serving than, say, wheat or quinoa or some other plant source, it's going to make it easier to get high quality protein from things, again, like whey, milk, casein, and then these meat sources. So as far as leucine goes, you're going to have to consume basically almost double the amount of plant sources as you would if you had a scoop of whey protein, for example. right? So this gets a little bit nuanced. I'm not going to get too much deeper into it, but just know that's why it's important to pay attention also to the quality of protein sources that you're getting in per day, primarily for sure if you are a vegan or vegetarian. All right, out of the nitty gritty stuff, let's get into the 5 easy ways. The first one is going to be eat your protein first. So front load your protein in the beginning of the day. And this also goes for the meal that you consume. As you can imagine, whenever you're eating a meal, towards the end of it, you're only going to get less and less hungry. So if you tend to slack on the protein in the beginning of the meal, whenever you're not as hungry, you're definitely not going to consume it. So it's a good idea to try and knock that out first and then move on to the other things on your plate. But also just if you find yourself consistently struggling to get in enough protein on a daily basis, it's good to front load that protein with breakfast and possibly with lunch as well, and maybe a snack in between. You want to have very high protein meals right off the bat, and that will knock out quite a bit of protein. That way you're not rushing to, consume 80 grams of protein with your last meal of the day or trying to chug protein shake. Chug protein shakes at the end of the day, right? Speaking of protein shakes, the second easy way is to add a protein shake before the meal when you're cutting and after the meal when you're bulking, right? So adjust this based according to your goals. But the reason why you want to have the protein shake before the meal whenever you're cutting is because due to protein's satiating effects, like I mentioned before, it's going to make you less hungry for that meal. So it's going to it's going to mean that you're not going to overeat on maybe if you have a bunch of starches or if you have dessert or whatever the case may be. Having that protein shake before is one, going to guarantee that you get in a big dose of protein, but two, it's also going to make sure that you don't, or at least make it less likely for you to overeat and be more satisfied with the meal altogether. And then the reason why I say put it after the meal when bulking is because quite the opposite, right? You want to make sure that you finish all of your food first, and then it's much easier to just chug a protein shake, even if you're hungry at the very end, because it's just liquid, right? So if you're already somewhat full, then chugging that protein shake at the end of the meal is only going to add a little bit more calories and give yourself a protein boost. So I think that that's an easy way to add in a little bit more protein based off your goals. Number 3 is going to be simply eating protein more frequently, right? I think that this one is this is where intermittent fasting can fail, because if you have 2 big meals per day, it's going to be difficult. Let's say if you need 150 grams of protein in a day, right? You're going to have to knock out 75 grams of protein in each one of those meals. And that can be pretty tough. So for me and for many of my clients, the typical pattern I like is 3 full meals and then maybe 1 to 2 snacks. And those 1 to 2 snacks, it's going to include probably a protein shake and maybe some like Greek yogurt, some type of higher protein snack that can help supplement those meals. So if I have 40 grams of protein at 3 different meals, right, that's 120 grams right there. And then if I have a protein shake on top of that, that could put me up to 150, have another little small snack, and I'm doing pretty well on my protein intake for the day. So simply adding in more meals or more snacks and making sure that they're filled with protein is going to be an easy way to add in a little bit more. Let's see. The 4th easy way is have a protein shake after training and or before bed. For many of you, this is going to be something that you already do as far as doing it after training. I think that that's kind of lifting 101. People tend to stick with that habit for a long term from the very beginning, right? They just have the protein shake naturally after they work out. But this is an easy way, especially because you can often be hungry right after the workout. So after the workout, down the protein shake, and then an hour or two later, you can have your dinner or you can have your meal or whatever. That's just an easy way to get in a little bit more protein. And then also before bed, that's one that I typically do as well. I think casein protein is definitely going to be favorable here just because it is more slow digesting and slow absorbing so that it goes throughout the entire night while you're fasting, while you're sleeping. But even just a regular protein shake will be definitely better than nothing. So add in that protein shake before bed as well. And the last way is never eat a meal or snack again without containing a high dose of protein. All of these examples actually are from my blog. I think it's like everything you need to know about protein. I'll put a link in the description. It's mattmcleod.org/protein. But I remember I wrote this quite some time ago. I wouldn't say you have to worry about never eating a meal or snack again without it containing protein. I think that might be a little bit extreme. But I think that every time before you're about to eat a meal or snack, if you start it with, okay, what's my protein source going to be, and use that as your base, well, then it's going to be it's going to be less likely that you're going to miss out on a decent amount of protein with that meal or snack if that's the very first question that you ask. So for me, that's just a super easy way to make sure every meal or snack I have has protein at the base, and then I can make the other choices around it. So that is the 5 easy ways to consume, or 5 easy ways to eat more protein. Real quick, eat your protein first in the day and in your meal. Number 2, add in a protein shake before the meal when cutting, but after the meal when bulking. Number 3, eat protein more frequently throughout the day. Number 4, have a protein shake after training and or before bed. And number 5, never, almost never, eat a meal or snack again without it containing a high dose of protein. And that is it for Minisode number 98 on the More Than Fitness podcast. As always, guys, thank you so much for listening and for watching. See ya.